What's up, Connor? Yeasty McCrevis. What a handle, man. That's awesome. Welcome, everybody. Finally, live today. Took me a while to get here today. Wait for a few more people to show up so we can jump on all the juicy discussions. What's up, Beth? Geek Mayor of Budsburg. Scooter. How are you, Beth? Good to see you. Big brother is here. Always very important. Cal is in the house. Sorry, brother. Today I started like 20 minutes before you have to go to sleep. Apologies. I'm really jealous, by the way. Go to sleep at 9, man. I wish I could. Chucha, you gotta relax, baby. We just went. We'll go right after. I know, baby. I know. Saucy. How are you, everybody? Saw you first time yesterday. Loved listening. Well, I appreciate you, Beth. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Well, yeah, I have to get 8 hours, huh? Oh, you wake up really early for work. Yeah, 8 hours is very important. I get very cranky if I don't sleep enough. Dr. Matthew. No, baby, come on. Right now? For real? No, baby. We just went. Wait, I need to negotiate over here. We just went, Baba. Yes. 10 hours, Bean. Whoa. I mean, no, come on. Seriously? Might need to take her. Jesus Christ. Matthew Walker. Wait. Sorry. I'm a little scattered brain right now. Let's see what's going on. Hey. Relax, baby. Damn, I think she needs to go. Oh, yeah. What about him? Oh, sleep. Right. See? I told you I'm scatterbrained. Yep. I remember him. I was definitely not in the right, according to him. Has anyone told you that you look like Jesus Christ? Hey, Grippy, good to see you. Yeah, people tell me this all the time. My sister says I have the Jesus, like the hairdo. Dow Jones. Great handle. Good girl. Poor thing, she probably needs to go, but I've waited so long to get in the chat. There you go. Grippy's back online. What's up, Eric? Welcome to members on YouTube. What's up, Grippy? Good to see you, man.
Hey, man. It was a good informational chat yesterday. Wow. I think I started looking up Anton. What's his name? Kratov. Anton. You gave me his channel name.
Oh yeah. The Russian guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't he great?
He has a ton of stuff that's like, and he's very like, yeah. He talks about everything, physics. Man. Are you in the States or?
I am, yeah.
Okay.
Let's see, science. Let's see. So today, I'm not sure we're gonna go. Oh, great. We have good. We have good flow today. Wonderful. Welcome everybody. Just to introduce this channel to all the newcomers. This channel mostly revolves around the simulation hypothesis. My name is Danny, and I'm claiming to have found proof that we live in a simulation, tangible proof. And you can find more information on my YouTube channel, Dango Thoughts on YouTube. And we meet here on the daily to discuss science, religion, spirituality, philosophy, and whatever comes to mind. I'm glad you're hyped, Colin. Good to see you. Very good to see you. And yesterday we actually had just like Greepy said, we had a really lively discussion about all kinds of things. It's always interesting to see that People from all walks of life are interested in these things. Some people have technical skills. Some people just very interested in these kind of things. We welcome all discussions of the right flavor as long as the vibe is right. NASA just released they found energy in atmosphere. What do you mean by that? Can you specify, Cal? I appreciate the news, but I would like to know what you mean by energy. Oh, not much, but very cool to see. Still, I want to know what you mean. Yesterday, we got into somewhat of a pretty deep discussion about the nature of reality and whether or not the moon is there. Is your simulation idea with determinism in mind? My simulation idea is not philosophical, but actual, or so it's an actual experimentation you can run. So it's not. I mean, obviously, everything is framed in terms of some metaphysics, and the short answer to your question in the philosophical banner would be no. The simulation is open ended. That's the short answer. But I'm proposing an actual experiment, which I discovered a few years ago that works. If you project a diffracted laser on a surface while you're on a particular molecule that I cannot name on this live chat unless I want it to be banned, and that it will reveal code running in surfaces. And this experiment has now been replicated over 1,000 times worldwide. No, it did not go through a proper double-blind study scientifically, but it's the kind of the talk around it is growing. There's communities all over the world of people that are exchanging information, emailing me all the time, emailing each other. It's very interesting. I think
Is there an actual video of this experiment taking place, or?
Yeah, there's a bunch. Actually, something that some people pointed out, that we have a website called codeofreality.com in which we put the protocol, all the stuff that you need to get, like as far as the laser. Like if you want to get it from Amazon or Alibaba, we just give you the parts that you got to buy. And it's a very straightforward thing. Like it's not expensive. It's not, and there we also have a page with some examples of people doing it. And people recently pointed out that the content is missing, and I think it's because we put it through somebody's Dropbox who's now dropped his Dropbox. So I'm going to put it on my Dropbox and put it back there. But there's also a video of one demonstration. I think it's here as well. I think it's actually one of the ones pinned to the top that I have here on TikTok. I think it's the third one, all the way in the top. The third, the most right one pinned to the top. That's the one with the demonstration.
On your account.
Yeah, I mean, I always recommend YouTube just because I usually make most content there a little longer and with a little bit more details, and you can find the same video there, probably with longer. I don't remember if that one was longer. I think it was, because I usually modify them for TikTok, make it a little bit shorter. And the experiment was basically one of the things. I mean, you guys will see if you watch my videos, but also we're working on a documentary right now in which we're going to present a bunch of people doing it. How are you, Tanya? Good to see you. What's interesting about it is that people don't. One of the things you immediately kind of gets your attention is that people don't look like they're, high. Like it's just you need to be right on the surface in order to see what I'm saying. So you don't need to go very deep. So you don't have people kind of like flailing around, whatever. You just have normal people like you and I sitting there looking at something. And yes, you obviously cannot see it. So it's almost like, because we're working on this documentary, I kind of thought of it. Kind of reminds me of most people here, I would assume, saw Pulp Fiction, right? So that suitcase that he opens in the end, right? And they go like, "What is that?" So it's almost like it doesn't really matter what's in the suitcase, but people's reaction is what's interesting. Now, in this case, obviously, it's important what's in the suitcase, and we talk about that, but people's reactions are very interesting. They are a data point all by themselves, because you can't fake that reaction. I mean, maybe you can, but you need to be an incredible actor. You guys will see it for yourselves, especially when I'm going to put the videos back on the website. People are they can't believe what they're seeing, essentially.
So that substance you guys use to put it on surface, is it possible that substance is what you're looking at, is the coding, whatever you guys see, is because that's what substance is made up of. It's not really the surface. Is it like a liquid or something you just put it on?
No. So the molecule that I'm talking about is something you have to ingest. Is what I'm saying.
Ingest.
Yeah, this is because we're in a live chat and there's like legal ramification. Yeah, I can't really mention what it is. But
you
if
have to like the okay.
yeah,
the
but if you
observer-
watch my
observer
video,
has to-
if you watch my videos, everything is specified in the videos. Danny is cooking.
but I mean, you see, like, so I know what you're talking about. Like, I mean, I know a lot of people who have experiences like that by ingesting that kind of stuff. They see stuff through the walls. There's a whole like, I think a lot of people. I've known about this. I just didn't know. Like, I mean, I don't want to do it myself, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to see what people see, right? I mean, people see weird stuff. Like people see shapes, forms, people like stuff coming through the wall when they take these things.
Yeah.
Is it okay to say
no?
N-word?
No, all the names of these molecules they will get the chat banned basically.
Well, it's a plant. It's like a.
Oh, it doesn't matter. Like if it's a plant that is classified as something, it will probably like if you can allude to it but not say what it is.
Like what we put on pizza sometimes.
Oh yeah. Actually, yeah, we call it pizza topping, so perfect. Yeah, so you can see it also on those. So these are very good points, and these substances they definitely make people experience a portion of reality that seems to be actually existing regardless if we're visiting it or not, which made a lot of people ask the question whether or not that space is real versus just being in our heads. So much so that there's now research worldwide studying this stuff from this ontological perspective. So people are actually asking the question, wait, is this a real space scientifically? What's different about what they discovered is that you don't see esoteric weird things. You see the exact same thing 100% of the time, and the way that it appears is just like a regular object. So you see code, but the code has like tangibility to it, just like you would see a digital clock. And if you would pick up the clock and you just kind of do this, it behaves like a regular object. So that's what's so mesmerizing about that observation. It's not that it's not as crazy in content as what people report, but that's exactly why it's so crazy, because how not crazy it is, because how just matter of fact it is. It's just there. And it doesn't matter who you are, where you are, it's always exactly the same thing.
It's more clear when you shine the laser on. Is that
it's the only way at the moment as we know to see it. Not just more clear. It's so people email me all the time that they see code sometimes, but I also see code just on the molecule without the laser, but it seems to not be the same code. So that code that people see, it's literally the most common email I get, which is like, I see the code without the laser. And then I have to explain to people, well, what you're seeing is something different. So the code that people see without the laser, it's much more malleable, and it's much more kind of like, not vague, but it's almost like cloudy behind, like subsumed in the surface. What you see on the laser is so coherent and so solid, like as far as its behavior, just like you're looking through a microscope, basically. And when you move the laser, just like you move a flashlight, you would see the code appearing where you're putting the flashlight. So literally just like revealing it. So it's not moving with the light, which is what you would expect if it would be a hallucination, because you have a stochastic pattern, you have light, and then you would think, oh, well, maybe the substance is doing something to my brain, but it's not moving with the light. It's literally just doing what it's doing, and you're just revealing it.
So when you take this magical pizza topping, magical pizza topping, like, are you still in your senses to be aware of like what's going on around you?
So
like,
the best
like your cognitive abilities to do something otherwise, are those still intact?
Yeah, it has to be, obviously, right? But also the best molecule to do it with is actually not the pizza toppings, is the kind of like the what's called the spirit molecule. And that is the thing that makes it appear the most coherent. If you actually just Google the spirit molecule, if you don't know what I'm talking about, it will appear. It will be the first name, and that would be the main driver that you want to use if you want to see it. It would work with pizza toppings, but they don't usually have as much juice, so you would see it, but it's not going to be as dramatic. Like it's not going to be as coherent. And you have, oh, wait, hold on. We have like a million comments that we use. I think it was half a volt electricity, something about pushing ions out and getting pulled back. Interesting. Reality is a construct, right? Everything is a construct via gravity. Wait, Cal, question for you. What do you mean? Okay, so I read your first comment about they discovered some kind of energy in the atmosphere. I think it was half a volt electricity. Thank you. Something about pushing ions out and getting pulled back via gravity. How are we influencing ionization with gravity? That's interesting. Also, like not magnetically. What's up, Tanya? Good to see you, Mr. Greg. Let's see if there's any other comments. Welcome, everybody. Okay, so then saw that. We just started the live, Tonya, not that long ago. Danny, you have my name. Respect. Wendy, Ricky. Okay, wait, where are all the comments that told me that we have? By the way, if you guys are here and you're enjoying this, if you guys don't mind giving it a few taps just so we get more listeners, so we can have a more lively chat. Interesting. Oh, okay, there it is. I didn't understand. It was literally telling me I have like 40 comments and then I don't see anybody and it was just, I guess, stuck. Let's see. What's up, Clarissa? Welcome, everybody. When you see the console, is it the same matter of fact feeling that it's real? Yes. It has a different, it even feels more real because it's not in the surface, but it's like, you know, like an object right in front of me and I can walk around it and it's opaque. That's what's crazy about it. But like I said a million times before, I don't expect anybody to accept that part because I wouldn't. Why would I? Right? Thank you guys for the likes. I appreciate you. And thank you, I3, I cubed, M to the power of 6, U to the power of 9. How do you pronounce all of this? Cal. So yeah, so what it's interesting you saying that because I'm just reading another story by Andy Weir called Hail Mary, Project Hail Mary. It's an interesting one. And there you also have this like weird discovery around the sun of things that seem to be alive but doing some kind of a thing. Do you see console with the same dose as you see the code? Yes. The console just appears just like immediately. I even see it vaguely when I get really tired, like it starts appearing, which is interesting. Is the energetic blueprint this all projects on Woody? Thank you for the comment, Tony. What do you mean by that specifically? What's up, Will? So yeah, yesterday we had a lovely discussion. Grippy was also part of it. We talked about the efficacy and relevance of math, how it tracks reality. Does the moon exist? We talked about idealism. We spoke about more advanced science, and I love that people engage in these conversations because it's. I mean, I really think that's kind of like the glue that binds us together, the knowledge that we have. Have you heard about the book, The Case Against Reality? I've heard about it. Remind me who wrote it again? Here, let me look it up a second. Oh, is that Donald Hoffman? Let me see. The Case Against Reality. I think it is Donald Hoffman, right? Yeah, Donald Hoffman. Yeah, I actually contacted Donald Hoffman originally, right when I made the discovery. And surprisingly, he responded. He was just right after a heart surgery, so he was recovering. And I always say I should probably reach out again. What's up, Dahlia? But every time I don't, but I should. Yeah, it is Donald Hoffman. We spoke about him yesterday as well. Not our, but our. Wait. The shapes and figures, I believe that's the energy force that a physical reality projects from. Which shapes? Oh, you mean the code? Yeah, that's what my contention is, which is it's literally the code of codes for reality. Have you heard? Oh, okay, we got that part. And Cal, I'm still waiting for an answer, or maybe you hopped off. You had to go. I don't know. I really want to know about that thing in the atmosphere. I'll look at the NASA article in more detail and get back to you next time. Oh, okay, got it. Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, it is interesting. When you see the okay. I wish there would be a better way to see the comments. Wait, maybe if oh, there it is. There it is. Okay, now I see the comments much better. My sister Tony Torres in LA joined and has in-depth long-term experience with molecule new to our theory. Well, welcome, Tony. And Bio Dream says Rob Reed had him on on his podcast. It's an awesome theory. Yeah, I mean he's trending. He's been everywhere. I don't know about one podcast that Donald Hoffman wasn't on. I think at this point. I am new here. Do you have a facility where you are located? You mean for the experiments? No, we don't have a facility. I am in contact with some of the leading researchers in the field, the ones actually studying the molecule, extended state. Some of them even seen the code. So in that sense, I have some access to the people that do work on this in the lab. And the hope is that sooner rather than later, they're going to start testing it in the lab as well. Welcome, Tony. If you have any questions, please ask. Go ahead.
I gotta take off, man.
Oh, brother, thank you so much. By the way, where are you from in the country?
I live in the Southwest.
Southwest. Cool. Well, please come back, and you're always welcome.
All right, man. Take care.
See you. Tony Tor, easy to build the laser yourself. Oh yeah, thank you for that, Cal. Cal, you're indispensable. Like amazing. Yeah, you can go to codeofreality.com and you have a page there that tells you exactly what you need to buy. You can just order it yourself from Amazon or Alibaba. People asked us to make a few, so we made some lasers, but technically you can buy everything yourself and just make it. It's pretty cheap. Hey Dan, how are you doing? How are you, Aaron? Is that how you pronounce your name? Good to see you. Totally. How can I volunteer? Well, you can start replicating the experiment if you're cold. If you feel cold, not cold. If you feel called, like it's so hard. The differences between the way it's pronounced with it, like called. See, when I'm tired, it's so hard to say for me. So that. Do you notice that you can catch glimpses now of it without the molecule? I can, but I have to be honest that because it's not nearly as concrete as what I see on the molecule, something tells me that there's a possibility that because my brain knows it's there and I've seen it so many times, it is possible that at this point my brain fills it in, kind of. That is possible. So I'm not sure that that's the same thing. Even though I met a couple of, actually at this point, 3 women that told me that they see it without the molecule. And yeah, Tony, and by the way, if you can always contact me directly, either DM me here or you can email me at lasersimulationx@gmail.com. Once again, it's lasersimulationx@gmail.com. I respond to all my emails. Even if it takes me a few days sometimes. Let me see. Which exact thing is a piece of the puzzle? The one in the picture. Okay. Have you seen the code, Clarissa? Clarissa, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Aaron is saying, I've got an interesting finding with the laser experiment. Please tell. I can see the code running on the molecule, but I found a way to see it without smoking the molecule. That is extremely useful. So I would love to hear about this, Aaron Gold. And by the way, please forgive me because I have quite a few people reaching out. So sometimes, and I'm terrible with names. Have we spoken like via email extensively? And if so, apologies that I don't remember. I just don't remember all the names. So if you want to But if we haven't, please either email me or you can tell us more now. But again, it's lasersimulationx@gmail.com. I'm going to put it right there. There you go. And I think I can add it here too, just in case people do want. Whoa, why is it not responding? Chat, comments, paste. Yep. There you go. Audrina. I don't know. I don't know why I said it like I'm a strip club DJ. Audrina. I understand. Okay, let me see. Oh, you may, okay. And the again, all the comments I just said, I'm terrible with names and I don't recall. Have we spoken before, Clarissa? It is. I had a person in that kind of space that, in short, she claims that she has been seeing all kinds of things since she was a child, and I've met a few people like that. And when she saw the whole thing, she said that it's uploading itself into our brains. So it's like telling us, it's trying to teach us something. So it's possible that it's also teaching us how to look at it. It might also explain why it takes some people some time to see it. Aaron is saying, again, please correct me, Aaron, if I'm mispronouncing your name, because something tells me that I probably am mispronouncing your name. Engel is saying, I've built myself a Kazarov mirror, which to anybody who doesn't know, it's like by some, it's considered to be a pseudoscientific tool, even though some people claim that it works. I'm not saying either way. I'm just kind of putting things in what we know from our current zeitgeist. And you basically, and Aaron is going to correct me if I'm wrong, but you use, what material do you use, by the way? And you basically enclose it on itself. So basically, it's a full enclosure, and then you climb in. That's the Kazarov mirror. Within the mirror, once you go into deep meditation, it becomes visible, but takes time to get into that deep state. Very close to astral frequency, so hard to stay focused. I see. So first of all, I have to say that I myself never astral projected. I know I am part of the astral projection subreddit because I was posting some of my videos there. Very nice people. I never experienced that, but I do accept that some people can probably do this. And I do think that ultimately what it's trying to teach us is how to do a lot of these things naturally. So this is super, super helpful. So you heard it here. If you build, do you think it would work in deep meditation without the Kozyrev mirror, Aaron? What's up, Spore Muse? Good to see you. I've seen things my whole life too. There you go. And the codes came before the molecule for me. Interesting. Wait. So this is important. I don't know if you were here for that part of the conversation. Do you see the codes without the laser, Clarissa? Let's see if there's anything I missed. Okay, no, I haven't missed anything. Okay. Yes, okay. So I don't know if you were here for this part of the conversation, but I was saying that the most common email I get, literally the most common, like by a whopping majority, is titled, I see the code without the laser. What I've noticed, and obviously I don't really have a way to know for sure what everybody is seeing, but from my comparisons with some people after getting into the details of the conversation, and we can do it with you now, I also see some code on the molecule. I don't have the ability to see it without, and I do accept that some people can. But that code that you see on the surface is kind of like subsumed in the surface, right? I'm claiming that it's a different code than the molecule. Than what you see on the laser, or at least it's a different layer of the same code, because that code is more malleable. What you're talking about, what I think you're talking about, you can correct me if anything that I'm mentioning is incorrect. But from what I gather so far, from all the people that email me this, literally, I don't remember one time in which this wasn't the case. They all say, yes, it is more malleable it is malleable. I can do things to it. I can change it with my attention. I can ask it to become different letters. I can kind of change its behavior a little bit, and it's a little bigger. You can kind of see it kind of like running, and there's like layers to it, right? What you see in the laser seems to be of a much more objective nature. So it's like it doesn't really care what you're doing, where you are. You can't really change it no matter what you do. It doesn't matter if you use sound, thoughts, love, whatever you want to throw at it. So far, it doesn't change. It's just what it is. It's almost like it codes for a layer of reality that you would call objective. But if any of what I said does not describe what you see, please tell me about it. When you see the codes with the laser, do you get a feeling? I It's hard for me to say because that tapestry for me is a little bit more opaque. So like I get feelings all the time. I don't know if I feel any different when I see the laser. But maybe somebody else who's more sensitive might be able to answer that. Yes, there are different ones. Some are kind of in the are some are surface and others are deep. But do you see also code that you cannot change no matter what you try to do it to it? And follow-up question, what does the code look like? Because the code that we're talking about in the laser, again, it doesn't really change. It's just what it is. And it's always the same for everybody. So far, it seems that way. What's up, Marisol? Froggy Disco. This is great. What was I got sidetracked. I mean, you guys keep throwing comments. This is very useful. What I was saying is that I yesterday when we were discussing all the scientific facets of our reality, there's a lot of yes, it's like ones, some fives, a couple letters. Interesting. Okay, so it does seem to be the same. Yeah, I would love if you email me about it because I think you're the first one to tell me that you see that code without the molecule and without the laser. Again, lasersimulationx@gmail.com. Please email me. What's up, Cal? Good to see you're still here, brother. Maybe it doesn't change because it's in a fixed state from the identity of what it's being reflected. Whereas when you're on the molecule, you're getting it and its superposition, if you will. I think I understand what you're trying to say. If in a fixed state from the identity of what is being reflected, you have over 1,000 replications so far, and as far as I know, every single one of them saw the same thing. You're talking about different people because so far everybody agrees. Even the people that I told them something else on purpose, they came back and said, "Well, I didn't see that thing you told me, but I did see," and then they told me what the code looks like. So it doesn't matter who. It seems to just exist. Like it doesn't have this nature. It doesn't have this like fleeting nature of changeability. It behaves like an object. It behaves like this. It's almost like talking like, well, but this is headphones for you, but it's something else for me. Like it would have the same logic to say that. Patricia, good to see you. Diffracted is what you need. I misspoke in the first video and said refracted by mistake. You need diffraction, not refraction. However, refraction helps, and it's not yet clear why. So if you project it through the diffracted lens and add water, it actually helps to see the code. I'm not sure why yet. Right, but it's being reflected from light, right? Yeah. What do you mean? But you see everything with light. Everything you see is with light. So how is this would be different? So it's like the light bounces off of it and comes back and you see it. So it's not in the light because when you move the light, the thing stays. It's in the background. Like it's not really changing its position when you move the light. But again, maybe I'm misunderstanding you. So if it's been refracted from light, it would be already having an identity. Oh, I don't know if I'm fully following you. So you see everything because light bounces off of it and comes back to your eyes. Everything. How would this be any different? Also, what do you mean? So everything has the identity of light then. every single thing. Thank you for the likes, Patricia. Well, when you're on the molecule, you see it when you in your brain, in your third eye. Uh, no, I see it with regular eyes, not in my like. No, it's just like part of regular reality. I try to explain it before I ask anymore. No, I'm truly trying to understand. Um, so I think I understand what you're trying to allude to, and this is a very common, well, I mean, I understand the language you're employing here, but I'm really trying to stay kind of like neutral as far as my assumptions about the world. I know that everybody kind of has their convictions. So, like, scientists have their kind of like physicalist perspective and they're very convinced of that. But I find that spiritual people have the same kind of conviction about third eye and all these things. I take the positions that I don't know. I don't know. I don't know third eye. I don't know anything that scientists think they know. I know first principles. I know what makes sense according to what I know and what I'm experiencing. That's all. That's the position I'm taking. So if you're trying to say that when we go into these spaces, we look through our third eye, I'm gonna say maybe you're right. Maybe there's something that is opening, and we see kind of like, and I'm actually very of the opinion that that's probably what's going on. But because of the way that I arrived at this, required me to stay very neutral, and I believe that is why this understanding came to me. I'm keeping that trend. So I don't know, but for all intents and purposes, when you see the code, you're not really like deep in the space. You just kind of here. So like it's regular, and then on top of that, you have this content. What it seems to me that is happening, like if I want to give it like a technical explanation or a technical story, I think what these molecules are doing, and uh, higher frequency states, if you want to call them, without the molecules. Some people are really good at getting there. Maybe even you are one of them. But what is actually happening there is that you literally gaining the ability to see more frames per second of reality itself. So if right now you see every fifth frame, there's a lot of content in between. And what the molecule and these heightened states allow you to do is to see all 5 frames. So it kind of feels like a ramping up. It feels like and that's why you see the content. That's what I think is happening. You can notice this actually very easily by notice if you next time whomever is already partaking. I do not recommend to dive into these spaces if you're not already interested. But if you are a person who ever tried or ever will try, or you next time you are on pizza toppings and you happen to be next to a campfire, I want you to look very carefully at the flames. You will see that you see the flicker much more accurately. Literally like an HD TV. You will see like you see every little gesture of the flame. That made me realize that you actually see more frames per second of reality itself, and I think that's why you see the code too. Um, but when you see it from the third, do you close your eyes when you're on it and blast off that? So I never do closed eyes anymore. It doesn't really work for me. Since I built the laser about a month after, they changed something about my brain, and it was happening very like I know that because I was feeling them doing that, and they were like, don't worry, like this is on purpose. And it literally felt like things happening, like it's almost like a like very very gentle kind of like poking in different parts of my head. And since that happened, first of all, I had a full-on computer console that appears for me now on a regular basis when I do it, and it's like just augmented reality. And it's I'm not going to hyperspace. I'm just right here, and it's an extension of my regular space. And when I close my eyes, I don't actually see almost anything. And if I do like a lot of it, yes. But if they want to take me like somewhere, then I would also see the behind the scenes. Like I would see these machines come in, and whenever I talk to my oh, Aaron, I see your comments. I'll respond in one moment. Um, oh, I'm also streaming on TikTok. Just Danny Golder on TikTok. So But thank you for being on YouTube. It's also very important for me. So I'm not ignoring YouTube at all. What I want to say. Oh, so when I speak to my spiritual friends about this, when I tell them, for example, that I see these machines come in, and then what they do is they vibrate my energetic centers in different ways on purpose, and I can feel it. So they're like, there's these things that come in, they sit right in front of me, and there's a thing that is kind of round and comes and sit right in front of me, and then it targets different energetic centers and it vibrates it for me. So all these things that we don't know how to do, or at least I definitely don't know how to do, I can feel the different energetic centers being activated and deactivated. And then there's external arms that kind of sit like this, and then they create a vibration all over the room. So it kind of goes like, it sets me to the right, you know, address, so to speak, with the energetic centers, and then it goes like this crazy vibration, and then I go right. And I'm claiming that that's how they do it for everybody. So it's not that you just like ingest the molecule and you go. The molecule essentially opens a channel that allows them to interact with you and vice versa, and then they can bring these machines. It's just that most people don't have access to see these machines, and I think what they changed about my brain, it's almost like I don't know what you call it, but I don't want to call it clearance because it sounds kind of silly, but it kind of like that. Like I can see more content now. So when I see that, I know that that's where they're taking me. So even when I go to hyperspace, I'm aware that that's where they're taking me now, right? And then I go, they show me whatever. Either I go to one of their places and they show me something, and then when I come back, I see the console opening up. Which, by the way, I don't need to be with my eyes closed to do that, and nobody does actually, because even if you're with your eyes open, if you smoke enough, you're just going to be sitting there like this, but you're not going to be seeing the room. You're just going to be somewhere, right? Even if your eyes are open, by the way. I hope this helps. There's a video on my Tony, especially because you experienced. This video might be interesting for you if you go to YouTube, Dango Thoughts, and search for the console, the video of the console. I have it here as well, but the version on YouTube is just better because it's longer. There's more details, and I made sure that it's entertaining. And I have a 3D model there of what the console looks like. Thank you, Tony. I appreciate you very, very much. Just so you know, sometimes, especially for the newcomers, I want to be very clear. Sometimes people say that I have a somewhat of a like almost like a dry way of saying things. When I speak about particular things, I say it that way. Um, I don't know how else to sound. It's just what I sound like, but I always like it's coming out of just like kind of like riffing on the facts. I hope that's okay. Could the code be the code for the laser light versus code making the wall? No, because when you move the light, it's staying in the surface cal, and all the surfaces seem to exhibit the same thing. Have you heard of Stephen Wolfram? Yes, he is decoding the simulation. Yeah, I think. Thank you for that, Nico. I think Stephen Wolfram is one of the people that is the closest to actually his model is probably the closest to potentially decipher a lot of this stuff. Have you reached out to any open-minded language experts? Well, my fiance is one. Fiance, and she saw the code, and she will be the first one to tell you how almost impossible it is to do anything with it. You need somebody. There's so much of it, and it's moving so fast. The thing is that there's a. So you need somebody with like a true, like actual photographic memory. Interesting fact: these people almost don't actually exist. Like people like to say that, but there's not. Nobody has that ability aside from maybe a few savants in the world. Not really. Like not really. There's this savant, and there's a few of them where they can literally see something and just remember all of it. You need somebody like that, but these people, there's maybe like 5 on Earth. Okay, and then or you need an advanced version of Neuralink that can directly record from the cortex, and then you don't need language experts. You can just put it into ChatGPT directly and see what it says. But that's a really good idea. Martin Zorman, good to see you. Woo, jumped. Oh, let me look at YouTube. Sorry. Gnostic is what I see. I don't know what Gnostic language is, Aaron. Can you point me? Can you put a link on the website for a website so I can see? Well, actually, I can probably search for it. Let me see, because I never heard of Gnostic language. I know Gnosticism is a set of ideas, but I've never heard of their language. Probably do. Let's see. Images. Oh yeah, so it's closer to Cyrillic. Kind of like, I see what you're saying. Yeah, it's kind of like closer to runes. So would you say? So it's interesting. I wonder if it's just your interpretation or you actually see something different. Oh no! I see that some of them actually looks similar to what I see. I would describe it closer to Japanese katakana, but this is interesting. This is whoa. Oh, I don't know what that was. Also, how is that not terrifying? Whoa, hold on. Thank you for the gift, Patricia. I appreciate you. Nathan Slicey. Upgrade. Yeah, well, essentially it is an upgrade. But I do miss the old days where I could kind of see just the stuff. I call it the stuff. I miss it sometimes. It's like woo. I don't see that anymore. How many trips did it take to see behind the scenes? No, it's only after I built the laser. So it's very specific. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm meeting more and more people. I now met 5 people that say they see the console, and some of them describe not to me, like the people just pointed them to me or vice versa. I met some people that can see it, and it seems that there's an uptake in the number of people. I think it's part of the process that they're putting us through. So more and more and more people will see it eventually. It's not because of the number of times. I think it's just because I built the laser and was engaging with this material in this way. I've heard people do it, and nothing happens, like they weren't given access yet. Thank you, Stranger 9 or Stronger 9. Thank you for the comment. What do you mean by do it? Do what? Also, how is that not terrifying? What specifically? Very typical. Very thank you. Dango thoughts? Yeah. Dango thoughts, correct. It's just that Dango is 2 words. It's Dango thoughts, but the rest is correct. What's my background? In what? In like education, where I'm from. What do you mean? Dango thoughts. Again, 3 words. Thank you, Cal. Cal for the win. I'll send the YouTube channel for a video. Thank you, Tanya. I appreciate you. Woo. Okay. Cal, what do you mean about terrifying? How is what not terrifying? I saw a Fourier transform on mushrooms. That's amazing. Like in real time? That is wild. Like, wait, you saw kind of like the logic of it too? Nico. Also, I would assume you have some technical abilities, right? Savants who memorize hundreds of numbers and those with photographic memory who can recreate digital. Yeah, so those are 2 very different abilities. But the as far as I know, the actual ability of like photographic memory, i.e., like straight up remembering exactly what you saw, I'm not kidding. There's maybe 5 people like that on the planet. It doesn't really exist. Video savant for sure. You missed a bunch of comments. Just FYI. Thank you, Spore Muse. Well, I mean, I'm alone, and sometimes it just jumps. Let me go back then. Do you interact with the computer console? Yes. There's only a few things I managed to do with it. Oh, okay. Thank you for pointing it out, Spore Muse. I'm seeing all the comments. We got that. We got that. We got that. Yes, we got that. Well, I didn't miss that many. Come on. I think you're right on the frames. Thank you, Clarissa. I think so too. Does it work with Peruvian pizza? Peruvian pizza is a new one. I like it. It does. You have to have at least 3.5 grams and more, but it's not going to be as concrete as on the molecule. It also works with Aya. I had the shaman in Central America that tried it, and everybody that tried it saw it. I need some pizza toppings. Don't we all? I mean, it's so easy to get now. Come on. Because I've seen even people kind of vibrate in and out of frequency, like see through them. Whoa, that is wild. That's amazing. Do you interact with that computer console? Yes. Like being able to see frequency speed up. Yeah, well, the speed up thing they do very often apparently. When you make things like fast forward, which is crazy. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but it's insane when they do that. Can I interact with the console physically? Great question. I can, yes. When I put my hand to the console, I can feel it. It feels like when you open a soda pop, like this fizzle. That's what it feels like. 1 second. I know what you're talking about. I have a couple people who experience same things in the astral. Yeah, I've heard about this actually in the astral. Some people said, well, I don't know what that is, but I know people who experience the same thing in pods with control panels, etc. Yeah, I don't know about pods. People did mention to me pods a few times. I don't see pods. Well, actually, that's not true. I see it's kind of like, I guess what if you can call the body of the console the pod, right? If you watch the console video, it's right here on YouTube, Aaron. Tell me if it looks the same to what you think you hear when people say pods. Because I worked with a 3D artist to recreate what I see. How are you, Azamoon? Good to see you. Aaron, go. Not sure if you want to look into it right now, but here's my finding from the Kazarov mirror. I also mentioned your laser device as well. Password. Wait, you gave me the password. To what? I only see. I only. I only see the password. Did you also share a link? Because I don't see a link. No link. If not, then just email me. lasersimulationx@gmail.com. But also, I would love if you email me regardless, because it sounds like we have a lot to talk about. And Patricia, were you here when I was describing the console and the way that I'm working it, or not? Because if not, I can repeat some of the stuff. I just felt like you were here for that. By the way, Patricia, yesterday we had a bunch of people that came on. If you want to come on and talk, please let me know. How many trips I take? See behind the scenes. Saw that comment. I mean, the trips definitely stabilized after a few thousand of them. That's for sure. Okay, let me go down because I think I caught up in the comments. Appreciate how thorough you are. Thank you, Spore Muse, with the comments. What's up, Justin? Jen, good to see you. Larry Johnson. Tony. I wasn't here for that. I enjoy hearing more. Okay, I'll talk about it in one moment. Let me just make sure that. Oh, Nico wants to come on. Hold on. What's up, Nico?
Hello.
Yeah, how are you?
Doing well. Sorry about that. I was kind of curious about this code that's rendering. I once had a pretty intense trip where I saw like a frequency spectrum. Later I was able to really identify it as like a Fourier transform of my images.
Okay.
Or what my visual field.
So basically, all the waves that give rise to people who don't know, Fourier transform is a formula that allows you to take a complex wave and then decipher which waves it's made out of. And so basically, you saw what is the constituents of all the different types of frequencies that give rise to whatever you're seeing. Is that correct?
Yeah. So when I was looking at like a tree, I saw a frequency spectrum for that tree. And when I was looking I saw like a squirrel, I saw a frequency spectrum associated with that squirrel as well. And it was something that was, I felt like I was kind of seeing like a quantum mechanical representation of something, but it seemed like it was pretty, it seemed weird. And then after I was thinking of the mathematical term to describe what I was seeing, and I essentially said, I think that was a Fourier transform. And when I saw your video on kind of seeing this rendering code, it reminded me of that experience. And I was kind of wondering if you've ever, I mean, I guess you were seeing it in pure binary, right?
No, it doesn't look binary. It looks numbers from 0 to 5 and a combination between Japanese katakana and Hebrew. But it's essentially, it's the closest thing to. It's not really exactly that. So it looks like an alien language.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, yeah, I was just wondering because I mean, it's something where I started looking into, like I joined Stephen Wolfram's physics project, and there is kind of a representation of the world in that way, in waveforms, and it does kind of explain a lot of things like the particle wave duality. And when you said your laser theory, it reminded me of like a double slit experiment almost. And I was kind of thinking, I wonder if we're kind of observing a similar phenomenon. But that's a really important point for Stephen Wolfram's research is, can I explain the double slit experiment? And he's able to kind of show this kind of what's called computational irreducibility, which is essentially like you can get two answers to two different paths. It's a little bit hard for me to explain, but
computational. I think you're talking about something else. You're talking about remerging paths on the graph, because computation. Yeah. Computational reducibility just means that there are certain portions of the graph that you cannot circumvent. In other words, you have to actually run the program in full in order to know what happens. There is no way to know what happens without running it.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, yeah, I was mistaken there.
No, you're good.
I've been trying to understand his work a lot since this experience.
Yeah, I've been following very closely. It's really, really interesting. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, no. Your work, your video just kind of really inspired me to kind of go into it even more and not give up on this experience. But I haven't.
No, give up. What do you mean? Wait. What do you mean by give up on what experience? Just so I know what you're talking about.
I've spoken to a lot of friends about it, and they said, "Oh, well, that's that's what tripping is, right?" And I kind of feel like it made a lot of sense when I was seeing it. It kind of was this like there was a piece that came from me observing this, and it was kind of, I felt like I was understanding the way the world was working at the most fundamental level, and you're
talking about your experience with the Fourier transform, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I've been just trying to kind of explain it and not just write it off as a experience, but I've been trying to kind of like understand it more. Essentially.
Okay. So actually, I'm going to do 3 things right now. I'm doing it for myself and my ADHD, so people can keep me in check here. So I want to see if I can go down this checklist without getting too lost. First, I want to address something you said about your experience, because I think it's very important, and that I think makes more sense of it in terms of why this is different than, let's say, how your friend said tripping. Then the second thing I want to do is maybe give like a couple of sentences outlining what Wolfram, what his model is. Some of my regular listeners would know because I spoke about it quite a bit. And then the third thing, I'm going to talk about the console. So anybody who wants to listen more about the console, then I'll talk about it right after this. So first of all, I want to say something to what you just said. One of the most important things about this space for me personally is to keep a very rigorous hand on the steering wheel. So just like, I have all kinds of people that come to these chats. Some of them are kind of like more of the, spiritual flavor. Some people are scientists. Some people are more technical skills, whatever it is. And I'm always trying to stay in the middle. So when you talk to people, especially when you do these substances, right? First of all, when you talk to people who don't have any experience with these things, people say difficult. I would say it is impossible to explain some of these things to them, because it is not kind of like, but it is exactly like explaining a color to a colorblind person or explaining vision to a person who was born blind. It's just impossible. It's a part of the qualia they've never experienced, and it is orthogonal enough to anything they've ever seen as to there is no other adjacent samples from their reality that you can consolidate into explaining what that is, because it's like explaining a dimension they can't fathom, right? You have to have a direct experience of it first. One of the things that I don't know if you probably thought about it quite a bit, But one of the things I learned by talking to a lot of people is that what you want to point out to people is that, first of all, they don't quite understand, people who say that, what it means when your brain is on these substances, right? And a very powerful argument that Andrew Gallimore puts in his book Alien Reality Switch Technologies is that he talks about specifically the molecule, right, the spirit molecule, and he says that the reason that you can't really explain it so easily in neuroscientific terms, and he is a neuroscientist, is that the brain does not produce content. I'm going to repeat it again. The brain does not produce content. It's not what it does. The brain is a very, very fancy guessing machine. So what it does, it sends kind of like a guess blanket, and then only what impinges on this matrix of guesses from, I don't know how to call it any other thing, but whatever is objective reality is, and I know this is a contentious point, but whatever it is that is impinging on it, and only that point of contact is the thing that it registers as part of its infinite blanket of guesses, and it goes, there's something here, okay, and then it tries to map it to different neural pathways and different neural networks that do a specialized thing. So with time, with evolution, the brain built many, many different kinds of neural networks to deal with all kinds of different elements of whatever the external environment is. So it goes from the most, the most specific, like there's a little square, like a little area of your brain responsible for just seeing diagonal lines. That's all it's responsible for, right? And then you have another set of things that are responsible for just seeing lines that are like that. So if you're going to see a hexagon, all of these different neural nets together make the hexagon what it is, right? And then the same thing for color and basically all your qualia. What the brain doesn't do, it's not somehow like a machine that is like pumping out content somehow, right? It's not like a camera that registers what's going on from the outside, and it's not making content. So what it leaves you is a situation in which the brain preserves energy by ignoring most of the stuff that it already seen. It already has all these models. So as long as what it thinks is going to happen next is not, and what is happening actually is not contradicted, it actually doesn't let that information in, which means that most of the stuff you see right now is not what is happening outside. It's coming from, it's like a thing that your brain thinks is happening that already seen before. So only when whatever is happening outside disagrees with what is happening now, disagrees with what your brain thinks is happening now, then the brain will send an error signal. And obviously it's doing it in real time, but then it's going to amp up the error signals. And it's going to go, whoa, 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 that's not what I thought was going to happen. And then if it searches for adjacent networks, because they're usually, they follow from whatever happens in the physical world, because most things are predictable. So if you thought that something is going to be here, but then your child threw something and it kind of hit that object, you didn't expect that to happen, the brain will update and go, wait, I didn't expect it to move. But then it looks for adjacent things and it's like, oh, ball, okay. Oh, I know what a ball is. Okay, it reframes, okay? And then it kind of like catches on to what's going on, but still with things it already knows. The problem begins when your brain starts noticing that a new kind of environment is impinging on it that it has never interacted with before. Then you have a little bit of a problem. And then what the brain does, it kind of goes into this like emergency mode. It's also why time seems to slow down when there's a car accident, because that's a very rare event that usually doesn't happen to everybody. But when that happens, the brain immediately collapses the distance between the projection and what is in fact happening. So it seems like time slows down, right? So it's like now it starts registering real time because it needs to figure out things in real time. And so all of that in view, the reason that you can't really explain the spirit molecule so easily is because the content you see on it is extremely coherent and very complex. So that requires enormous amounts of energy that your brain will never exert for no reason. It has no evolutionary function unless something is actually impinging on it from the outside. So if something is extremely realistic, if you have a slight departure from whatever you see, so some colors might start getting more flowy, or some edges get a little bit more kind of like uh, whatever, just like a little, like a little augmentation of whatever you're seeing. Okay, you can make that argument. You say, well, something is happening and your neurons are a little more flexible, whatever. But if you have just a straight up complex event that you're observing that is not a derivative of whatever your external environment is, let's say, then you're going to be at pain to try and explain something like that, because it's literally your brain doesn't do that. You see what I mean?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, it is impossible to explain that. And I can't even really remember. I just remember the feeling. I don't really remember exactly what was happening so much, because it was such a powerful experience. But yeah, I mean, anyways, yeah, I just wanted to kind of share that. But it seems like you're very well versed in all the science going on in this area. So pretty cool.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, no, I really want to, because sometimes I don't know if that's your experience or not. Maybe just you don't even think about it, but it was my experience for a little while, that it does feel a little it makes you feel a little bit of an outcast, or maybe a little lonely, when people kind of cast too much doubt about something that for sure requires a deeper observation. So just know that there's definitely some serious people that are considering these things, and they have good arguments to make about it from a scientific perspective.
Yes, and I think a lot of like deep down, I think a lot of quantum mechanics with like observer theory is something that is really cool, because I think classical Western science views they don't really think of the observer as a part of the system, as a part of this experience and phenomenon that we're experiencing. But in quantum mechanics, the observer is very much so a quantum factor, a variable that changes the whole thing. And I feel like through these interesting states, we're able to kind of tap into these like quantum. I don't want to say like I don't know what the phenomenon is, whether it's entanglement or there's some type of collapsing of some wave function that's happening, but it's really cool to kind of try to decipher that. And I think Steve Wolfram is kind of on that cutting edge of it.
So just so you know, and it sounds like you really you were following it also pretty closely. Essentially, the way that I usually talk about it is I just divide it into the three main graphs that he's talking about, right? You have the causal graph, hypergraph, hypercausal graph, hyperlink. No, hyperlink. I think I forget right now, but I think it's hypergraph. And then the Rule-Yad itself. So the causal graph is just the simple nodes that are changing with relationship to particular rules. So you have, I don't know, let's say ABC, and then you have a rule that says if you have an A, change it to B. If you have an AB, change it to C, and then so on and so on. And then it just evolves, right? And that kind of describes a lot of the classical world. Then you have hypergraph, which basically describes all the the hyperlinks. No, not hyperlinks. Why am I spacing on this word right now? Hyper edges. That basically describes all the possible connections in the causal graph. In each step on the graph describes all the possible connection on that part of the tree, and that is actually equivocated with describing quantum mechanics. So like the many worlds interpretation, like all of these things happening in tandem together, and they actually use that topological space to explain. Topologically, they use it to explain quantum mechanics and many other observations that we see from that weird world. And then there's a few other graphs, but the I think these are the main three that are important to understand. Then you have the Rule-Yad, which is basically the graph of all possible rules, and it itself is evolving. So basically, on every step of that tree, you have not just the rules, but each step of the tree allows you the rules to also evolve according to their own logic. And then you have like evolving rules, basically. And the goal, well, one of many, is to see if you can look up that tree and to see if you can reverse engineer what are the logical back propagations of these well, backpropagation in this case would be the wrong term, but basically if you look back up the tree and see if you can see the logic of the ultimate first rule, which gave rise to itself. And that's kind of like the holy grail, right? They're trying to see if they can basically discover how everything came to be from the one original rule. But I think you're right. He's definitely the closest to potentially solve a lot of the seemingly loose ends between all the different ways and modalities to try and understand the world, at least in the physical science.
Yeah, but anyways, thank you so much, Danny. Appreciate it. Yeah, I'll keep in tune with your work.
Thank you, Nico. I appreciate you.
Okay, all right.
And to now everybody who wanted to hear a little bit more about the console. So I spoke about it quite a bit. There's the only thing I managed to really make work. There's some menus. There's sometimes the menus change, but so for example, there's a thing that hovers in front of you, and it kind of looks like a bouquet of flowers. Imagine if somebody was pointing it at you, and then you see all these. So if the roses are here, right, these are basically kind of like the rolled up subjects, so you can see them in 3D. So it's actually I was the other day was I think a UX UI expert here, and I was telling him that if you can implement this, you should take it and run with it, because this is the most genius way to arrange information. And if anybody here is in that field, try it. It's crazy. So if you roll up the subjects, imagine you have a piece of paper that you roll up like that, right? And you make a bouquet out of it, and it sticks out this way. It has a way to present the subjects right in front of you. And because it has this like three-dimensional tapestry, you can also see in depth. You don't just see the surface of it, you can also see deeper. So you can see all at once. You take like a SWOT of like subject that is subdivided by subsubject, and you can see all of them, like what it is in real time. Just your brain takes all of it. It's actually a crazy genius way to arrange information, apparently. So that's one of the menus. The other menus are, there's a carousel of VR glasses that usually hovers on my left. There's a pair of gloves on the right that I never managed to do anything with. And there's a suit that hovers right in front of me, and it kind of looks like Iron Man suit, honestly. It's just kind of like this thing, and it's made out of this translucent, beautiful, glistening space gray thing. And it has just like the body of the console, it has iridescent colors running on its rims. It's like the most beautifully designed thing you've ever seen. It's just insane. And I never managed to make the suit work either. It's always receding for me. I met somebody who emailed me before I released the video about the console, and this is how I know he for sure sees it, because he described to me everything without me saying a word about it yet publicly. And he said that he managed to put the suit on, but I don't know if it's that satisfying, because all he said is that basically what happened is that he was looking in the mirror, and he said I was just staying really, really still, and I was just focusing on it, and eventually it just came and engulfed me. And then he said that he became kind of like a crystal, like a diamond. That was it. I never managed to make it work. It is 3D, yeah, Aaron. The thing is definitely 3D. And then why do you ask it's not 3D? And I can, the console is like very realistic. It's like an object in the room. It opens up from this like capsule. I can walk around it just like I can walk around a coffee table. And the only thing I managed to make work, which I told before, is the VR glasses. Like, they basically are a personality switcher. So one of them made me into, so basically it kind of like comes on, and then it just made me into a different person. Like that's how I know that probably that joke by Joe Rogan about the eye potentially actually being the same for everybody, I'm pretty sure that's true, because I felt the same as far as but I knew I was a different person, and like a different kind of person. So it basically wanted to show me, I guess, is like, see, like it's all a matter of just switches in the brain. We can just change it like that. And the first one made me into an African American, and for lack of a better language, I could feel everything in my being completely change. My posture, the way I feel about certain things, the way I felt the cultural pain. I felt the kind of like this connection to music. I know that all of these are kind of like, just like kind of like caricature version of like what people would say about African American people in general. But I think that was on purpose that way, because they wanted to show me that these attributes that are deeply different from one culture to another, they're still just a matter of just a few switches in the brain. Just like you can play this like a piano, basically. And I could, like, all of that change. And then they made me into this crazy genius. I could understand all of these like crazy subjects connecting to each other. And all of these are kind of still, you can always say, well, you were tripping, right? But the last one, and this is the one that kind of I have like some physical verification, it basically made me into, I don't know how else to call it. Again, I always say this because it was funny to me that I have a really good female friend, and she said you shouldn't use that word. It communicates something different. I'm like, I don't know. That it basically made me into this like womanizer, like a man who just like lives to to please women. That's I don't know how else to call it. And then my now fiance, girlfriend at the time, she was sleeping, and it basically made, I knew everything, literally every single thing in real time about what gives pleasure to a woman, from the psychological to the physical, like everything. I saw the entire schematic, and in real time, I remember this so clearly. In real time, I just put one hand on her leg, and I literally just started conducting her with one hand. And in real time, as she woke up, I could see like, oh, okay, so she just woke up. She has this amount of energy. She needs more stimulation. She needs to feel more excited. So I need to go through the back, because the back creates more stimulation. And then you go through the neck, and you go through the head, and you do like, and all of that. And that's how I know that it was real, because she was just, she was like, what was that? And I was like, that's the console. So I know for a fact that that's a real thing. At least for that, I know that I have one verification that is physical. Was it? Oh, whoa! We have a lot of comments. What's up, Chase? Good to see you, brother. The Ubermensch is back. Okay, I can't go any further back because I think we're going to lose the plot. So let me see just the more recent comments, and let me look at... okay, let me go down here. What's up, Gabriel? Thank you for all the likes, guys. What do you think a star actually is? I don't know if you're awake or not yet. Just thought I'd check. Yeah, so I've heard... who would knew? I have interacted with enough people at this point of, I guess, the awake flavor that do tell me that they can see the stars coming to them, and they're kind of like UFOs, and they can just ask it to come to them. So I'm aware of all of it, but no, I never managed to do it myself. So I guess by your definition, I guess I'm not awake yet. Sweetheart. Wow, that would be an incredibly helpful invention. Wasn't that Black Mirror? I don't know which... Sorry, I was on a rant for a while, so I don't know which one you're referring to. Was it Thoth who claimed he could reincarnate at any time in the dimension? Oh, I mean, Thoth. I don't know how to pronounce it. I don't know. I'm pretty sure that a lot of gods claimed this, no? I wonder if that is something he had to learn in physical form and taught himself to remember. That is an interesting one. Have you ever dreamt you were someone else? Is the VR experience similar? I never dreamt I'm someone else, no, so I can't really compare. Every reincarnation. I don't remember what you said made me think of that. What's up, Chase? Good to see you, my brother. This is my first time here. What simulation talk? How are you, Jesse? So usually this channel reserved for talking about the simulation theory. My name is Danny, and I'm claiming to have found proof that we live in a simulation. I discovered a few years ago that if you project a diffracted laser on the surface and ingest a particular molecule that I cannot name here on the live chat, you will see code running in surfaces. And this observation has now been confirmed over 1,000 times worldwide. I am in contact with some leading scientists in the field. And no, it was not put through the ringer scientifically yet, but it is underway. And we meet here on the daily to discuss science, spirituality, religion, philosophy, whatever feels right. I think that's a summation of the channel. If you feel like that's something that sounds interesting to you, then stick around, and you're always welcome to come on and chat about whatever you would like. Yes, expand on the console of those experiences I've had. Oh yeah, Chase, by the way, here, who's a good friend, and he happens to be a genius engineer, and he is definitely awake, by the way. He definitely probably can tell you more about what the stars really are and all that stuff. And if you want to come on, brother, you're more than welcome. But if you feel like you want to rest, not gonna force you. Ubermensch wants to come on. 1 second, Ubermensch. Let me just see a couple of comments from YouTube, and then I'll bring you up. Seriously, Chase, you're always welcome to come and chat. So, but I'm not gonna put you on the spot because I know you spoke about yesterday a lot. So only if you would like, let me know, and I'll pull you up. Thank you, Aaron. I will look at the link. Yeah, Toth did claim that, or it's so to enter TikTok, Toth did claim that, or its attributes to that name for what it's worth. Danny, to clarify, the code replaces the surface. Wait. Clarify, the code replaces the surfaces of objects or overlays it, and you can still see the normal object surface underneath. It's literally in the object, like it's inside. It's making everything. So the only reason you see it is because the light bounces off the object, comes back to your eyes, and you can see the code. I'm claiming it's everywhere, including in the air. It's just that you can't bounce light off the air to see it. So yeah, you definitely see the surfaces. Oh, great. Bringing people on. How are you, brother? And the Ubermensch is coming on as well.
Hey, Danny.
How are you?
Doing well. How's your evening?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, it's a bit late here, but I'll hang out and chat for a bit. We had a busy afternoon and evening running around town getting things done, but glad to hop on. Happy to see you talking about the headset. After our live yesterday together, I told my girlfriend Carly that about the headset experience and my experience with a console. I don't think it's that similar to the console that you have mentioned experiencing, but inhabiting other bodies, being in other individual instances of human lives. I think I've shared that with you before. I've experienced that on more than one occasion. I was a little African American boy on a school bus, an elderly woman and an elderly man both riding a bus, and I was a woman. I'd say late 20s, early 30s, in a Jeep, top off, doors off, in a desert adjacent to a city center.
Were you hot?
Sorry?
Were you hot?
I saw my legs. My legs were hot.
Cool.
But yeah. But I can relate to what you were sharing when I first joined. Yeah, it's fascinating stuff.
So listen, I want to ask you, because I think I know what the person is referring to, about the stars, but I want to and I'm pretty sure you're gonna have a couple of things to say. But first, I want to see what the Ubermensch wanted to say, because he did wanted to join right before, and I don't want to silence him. So, and then Azamun, I'm gonna tell TikTok what you were saying about the stars. Go ahead, Ubermensch.
Hello, first of all.
How are you?
I came up. I was compelled to come up because I'm a little lost as to exactly everything that you're talking about. But I heard you say that you saw code on a refracted laser after ingesting something you can't mention here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just curious if that's what they call the spirit molecule.
Yes.
Okay, so now I came up because I had a similar experience.
Please tell us.
Except I didn't have to refract the laser or anything of the sort. I'm going to tell you this experience. Like, I guess I've told this experience many times, but I've never met a person who had a similar experience. So, I'll share it now. I was experimenting with the same thing, except without the laser. I was sitting in front of a window with a lot of light, like you see the light rays, a lot of light coming through the window. And I was I was doing that. And there's a particular thing I was doing with that, I guess I don't want to talk about here, but I was doing that. And all of a sudden I see code, I see like a language, I see something that I call like a living language, because I've heard that spoken before. When I heard it spoken, I was like, that's what it is, because it looked like symbols I've never seen before, and they were running on through my skin, through my pants, through the walls, through every object that I could look at, and including the rays of light that was coming through the window. And yeah, it honestly was like the movie The Matrix, except without the green and without the actual numbers. It was symbols I don't recognize myself in anything I've ever seen, but they were beautiful, and they were moving and flowing in everything that I was looking at.
Yeah. And that is, you probably weren't here for that part of the conversation, but this is the most common email I get, titled, I see the code without the laser. And after I investigate with people, which will be interesting to ask you as well. Somebody asked on YouTube, what color is the code you saw?
What colors?
Yeah, somebody's asking.
If I had to, from my memory, the colors, I would say it was like, the whitish, like lightish color. Like
basically, it's part of whatever right. It's kind of like subsumed in the surface. So what I want to ask you is that every single time somebody emails me this, which by the way, in Vio Dreams, that answers your question. Yeah, it definitely appears on your body as well. And a quick answer to Tony Torres: yes, we are in Los Angeles, and I am about to start doing meetups. So if you want an invite, please email me at lasersimulationx@gmail.com, lasersimulationx@gmail.com, and I will make sure that you're invited to the next one. So my question to you, the Ubermensch, is, from everybody who emailed me this, I always ask them, and I asked them, is it more malleable though? Because when I see that code, I know what you're talking about. I can change it with my attention, so like I can do things to it. Is that your experience with that code or no?
No, that wasn't my experience, because I only had that experience once. Although I tried to prolong it, I tried my best to prolong it because I just was mesmerized. So, but I'm never again. And honestly,
wait, why never again? That scared you?
Quite honestly, there wasn't that particular thing that scared me, but another experience. Yeah.
Got it. So that is something that can happen, definitely.
And it wasn't like scared me. It was just like I came to respect it. I went from just pure curiosity and just without thinking twice about it to I think I'm good for now.
Okay, yeah, I can understand that. And Tony, I see you trying to come on. 1 second. I'm just gonna bring you on in 1 second. I just want to read something from YouTube response about the stars, and then I want to take it to Chase, and I'll bring you on, Tony, while Chase is telling us. So what the comments on YouTube were. Okay, got it in it. Oh, I saw bright object in the sky start moving and then warp into a giant mothership UFO. No drugs, just walking my dog just after dusk. It looks like a bright star at first, to respond to the person asking about stars. But what I think stars are would be hard to explain in this format. Okay, so a couple of things. First of all, yeah, I mean, if we're talking about from the physics perspective, yeah, stars will be, I don't know if it would be that complex, but I think the question was asked was a different question, because I have, people that are more, I guess, what you would call awake, that they wake through some kind of an awakening. They see that the stars are kind of like managing to do something. You can do things with them. You can pull them. You can ask them to come to you. They're kind of like UFOs. And I tried to do it a few times. What I've noticed that happened to me for sure is that the stars, like when you look at it long enough, any star, it all of a sudden starts doing like a dance, but like truly like moving around. But then I realized what was happening, and anybody can do this. It's because your brain is constantly trying to guess the next thing, and it's not used to things just being stationary like that. So I think that's the brain literally guessing the next things, so it starts to move like that. I think it would work for anybody. So as far as I can tell, for me, I never managed to make that work, but I know that definitely know people that told me like, here, look, just pay attention, and I could never make it happen. So now I want to take it to Chase real quick, because I know that you had some experiences like that. I don't know I think you even told me that you had an experience like that with a star. And while you're telling us, I'll bring Tony on, and then Tony, if you can just mute yourself until Chase is done talking.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I don't know where to start with this. I'll give everybody the whole history, I suppose.
Sure.
So when I was 10, I had this cliche experience with my mother on a desolate Texas highway. We were in a soft top Jeep Wrangler. We had a Dalmatian in the back seat. We were headed home from families, midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. And there was this craft that was blinking that followed us down the highway. So that was the first experience. And then I had a close encounter with a triangular craft that was an equilateral triangle, perpendicular to grade, moving at about a mile per hour, roughly 150 feet line of sight from the front of my mother's yard to above my adjacent neighbors across the street, homes. And characteristics that are, similar to a lot of other reports. But, these experiences occurred without any, substances. I certainly wasn't under the influence or anything like that. I've had ghost experiences before and poltergeist experiences before. So all of this physical phenomenon is very real in my mind. And how long has it been? 6 years ago, I was working with Lou Elizondo. I was researching this stuff. I almost went to work for To the Stars on an AI project called Vault that they were going to launch. But I turned them down, and then I was working on a vehicle project with them and doing other things. And right around the beginning of that engagement with them, I had this experience with, something that could be called a classic CE5 experience. I was compelled to go outside. I had somehow put myself into some new physiological state, is the best way I can describe it. Just by a train of thought that I had in my kitchen prior to being, having the thought to go outside and try to have a very specific thought in my mind confirmed by lights appearing in the sky, as crazy as that sounds. And that question had to do with the nature of thought and the influence of thought on what we consider to be physical space-time reality. And so I went outside and I asked my question, and a luminous spherical orb, and for those that are, that care, like I'm an electrical engineer, I have a master's degree, and I'm a mechanical engineer, and I work with emergent tech, operational and functional safety. And so I have this experience of this first orb appearing. I've worked for NASA. I've been up on the Vomit Comet. I've tested electromagnetism under microgravity. This wasn't a plane. This wasn't a bird. This wasn't, any kind of normal, natural, generally accepted phenomenon. But despite knowing that, I asked for it to happen again, and it happened again and again and again and again, and 7 times in a row. So I've got my confirmation that this isn't something common. I've had a lot of other experiences like that. So I've had experiences, speaking to specifically the stars, I've had experiences maybe a night or two after that specific experience. I was in my front driveway and I was on the phone with, at the time, she was the director of MUFON from Maryland and West Virginia or something. And I was describing to her the mental process that I had during that first experience, right? Because it had only been a day or two. And as I was describing that mental process, there was a flash over a field to my north. A really bright flash, like the flashes you see in the CE5 videos that are really popular on YouTube, right? The ones that have the most views, those big flashes, Alaska craft to flash and it'll flash.
Can you
flash
specify
like
to
that.
people what C5 means? Because I don't think everybody knows.
It stands for Close Encounter of the Fifth Kind. So, oh, forgive me, the father of the Close Encounter, terminology. I forget his name.
I don't remember
He
either.
worked for.
Oh, the French guy?
Department
The
of
French
Defense,
guy?
Department of the Army. But regardless, it just means that you're making contact with another intelligence via telepathy. Essentially, you are thinking about making contact, and by doing so, something comes. So that's the general kind of thing. It's also referred to as human initiated contact event, or HICE for short. But yeah, but this other experience after that big flash, immediately after, there were roughly 7 or 8 stars to the left side of where this flash originated, and roughly 7 or 8 stars to the right side of where the flash initiated, and they all in unison, in sync, grew in brightness and dimmed in brightness. So I think and of course there's a lot of other anecdotal reports and arguably quite a bit of evidence, from a kind of volume of anecdotal reports anyway, of stars moving, of stars responding. Just the other night, I came across a story that I thought was really pretty good. Someone in Joshua Tree was spending a week, and there was a battle above them, and they watched various UAPs, UFOs, kind of, at least it appeared as if they were either having fun or going after each other. That's crazy stuff.
Or maybe a
People
combination of the
seeing
two.
The Starship Enterprise upside down over the city of Chicago.
When was this?
Sorry?
When was this?
The
Top
Star
line.
Trek report?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll have to look it up, but I know it's one of those crazy edge cases, and yeah, but it just goes to show you. You think about any kind of reported phenomenon. I mean, think about the alien grays, phenomenon. I mean, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of different types of experiences with grays that are reported.
What I found really interesting about what you told me about that first event when you were with your mom is that you think that the reason that they backed off was because of the dog, which was very interesting to me.
Well, she suggested that. She turned to me after the fact. And really the thing that was most moving about that experience was the brightness of the light. Because initially when we noticed it, maybe the first blink, I don't think it was quite as intense, but when it was close to us, when it illuminated, it literally looked like day for as far as the eye could see. And we don't have technology that can do that. Trust me, I've done the math. Like, I've looked it up.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I don't think that's on the question. I don't remember if I told you, but I've seen one when I was a kid, but it wasn't like even with lights. That was what was so weird. And I saw it with my mom. Literally, it was like it was just a spinning. I guess you can say, you know how a cupcake looks, just an upside down cupcake, literally, because it had the same kind of like ridges, and it was just
Oh,
spinning.
interesting.
Yeah, it was just spinning, and it was and at night already, so it was kind of like, but it was close. It was very close to our window, and we saw it like straight up. We saw it, and then it just disappeared, and it had no lights. It was just kind of like just kind of moving like that. That's the only time I saw like a full on. But there's no question that we saw it. Both me and my
Yeah,
mom. It was
and
like,
see that is so incredibly unique. Like that's almost kind of funny because it's like it's so bizarre. You just know that it's not that maybe you are intended to see it. Maybe it's intended to get you to question the nature of reality itself. I don't know. Maybe it's more random than that.
maybe they were just blowing their nose. They didn't notice they were visible. They're like, "Oh shit!"
It could be, yeah.
Let me just bring on Tony real quick just to see what she wanted to say because she
Yeah.
was patiently waiting. Go ahead, Tony. Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay, I guess I can't even remember the first thing I wanted to say because there's been 1,000 things, but
that's why I have a pen.
it feels to me like the last thing that you were saying, like, why are we seeing these things? It feels to me, and I'm more than like trying to like win my point. I'm actually curious if like it lands in your body when you hear this, like it feels true to you or you felt this way before. But it feels to me like these frequencies are battling for identities. Stay with me. These frequencies are battling for identities, and so that like I think after doing hundreds of I'll just call it praying with the molecule. Maybe I might even be near 1,000. But it seems to me like everything is an entity. Like once you create a thought, it now exists as an entity. Like everything. Like nothing is not real and conscious once it has been created. And we're like minds inside of a super mind. So we're creating. These thoughts then co-create out in whatever space they take over. Forever and ever and ever to infinity and beyond. And it feels like they live in different frequencies depending on how like kind or thoughtful they are, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like when things are going bad, let's say, like it makes it easier for constructs like war to happen seamlessly, right? And like when things are going well, it makes it easier for like laws that make you autonomous to your own body to get passed, right? And it feels like to me like the frequencies that are higher, like that, like unconditional love wants to be like is the thing that made us all. I know this is a lot, and no one has to agree with me, but I'm just curious.
No, I actually agree with everything you said. So
Okay, cool. Thank you so much. I appreciate that confirmation. So it feels like unconditional love is like the everything everywhere all at once force that made everything, and it wants to get back to its natural state of being a kind existence of us and with us, and it is trying to seep back into these spaces that have been like completely hijacked by negative energies, of which are like spaces that have less of that due to thoughts or whatever that create them. And that the people who are more likely to, and I think some of this is just like, I think there's a difference between like talent and craft. And talent is like, for some reason, you got a little more of it when you were born. And craft is like, you build it. And some people have like more talent by birth towards this or violin, whatever, no shade to either one. And some people like then do lots of kind acts and try not to like hurt anyone and build the craft of it. And that sort of like opens up the consciousness to this other reality that we can see things. And when we see things, even if it's one person, because we have a collective unconscious, it materializes throughout anyone who can get near that frequency. And once it realizes in them, people with a slightly lower frequency can then sort of grab it off of them. And it feels like it's like sneaking in through our like hopes and dreams of a better world to then add that frequency back into this depleted realm, or matrix, or whatever lane you want to play with for that day. And it seems like it's using us to re-see it so we can remember, as in like reconstitute it, right? As in like put it back together, remember, right? Remember, right? Get it?
Mm-hmm.
It feels like that's what it's doing with us, and it's playing. It rewards us with this incredible feeling because A, that's what it is, but B, it makes it fun for us to play the game to bring it back in here. Does that make
makes perfect sense? And I literally did not hear one thing that I would say that I can disagree with, but also I feel like when it comes to, you know, if we want to play the truth statement claim, obviously, like who knows, right? But everything you said sounds completely right to me, and I always say that in if I have to think, like, you know, in ultimate terms, the thing that makes sense to me, if you are God or the source or whatever you want to call it, if you're this one eternal conscious being at the top of everything, and you're aware of yourself and you're aware that there's nothing outside of you, which is the biggest mindfuck ever, and you know that you always been here, but maybe this is what kind of makes sense to me. You don't have to agree with this, but it makes sense to me that the one thing that God would not know is why he's there, and it's kind of like the conundrum. And then on top of that, you know that anything you want can become. And that's a little maddening because that means nothing matters, right? So it's kind of like you just like alone, and it's like this, you know. So it makes sense to me that the two skills that God would like to hone is one, just be in love, like just be, because if it's forever, then the smallest element of something that is like, you know, dissonant or doesn't feel good can evolve to like an infinite thing. So you want to just be able to just be in love, and also potentially maybe transcend the self-awareness and just become the all without any awareness. In other words, nirvana. So those two things, it seems like what God would try and manifest as an ability. But while it's learning how to do that, it in some moments it can be a little torturous to be in that state. So what God did is broke himself apart to these infinite parts that we are, and essentially God is learning to do these things through us, basically. So it's like we're all trying to kind of like, and this is why everything you said makes sense, because then you would have all of these competing energies trying to, we are the manifestors of all the energies, so they are trying to compete for our attention to manifest through us into this what seems to be the tangible reality. And probably there's many other forms of it, but this is like one of them. And in that sense, this is why I always tell people when they have, like, you know, quote unquote a bad trip, I always say there's it's not even a rule, it's just the law of existence itself. They can never control you, cannot. They can only try and convince you that they can. And that is the thing that gives them the control. What gives them the control is that when you get convinced that they're dictating what's going to happen, and that's when you get scared. And that's, so what you don't realize, you actually have the last word always. And you can say no, you can say no to fear, you can say no to, and you just choose in the moment. And I feel like it ties directly to what you're saying, especially about all the stuff about, you know, all the bad stuff that is happening in the world. It is difficult sometimes, or sometimes very difficult, to step back, especially when you're emotionally hijacked or something that is very close to you, and then step back and say, wait, can I actually just be in love? Like, and sometimes it's almost undoable, right? And then you have to wait for a better moment to try and do it. And it's like sometimes a tall order. Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to say, if I
thank you, Chase. By the way, let me just say, Chase, thank you so much for your contribution, brother. Thank you for being so amazing and respectful. Always appreciate your words. Have a good night, and we'll have you maybe in the next few days. Go ahead, Tony.
First of all, thank you so much for like sort of like creating community for me in that thought. I hadn't been able to like share that with anyone yet. So the other thing that I wanted to ask you is if you have ever practiced sun gazing.
Wait,
do you know?
Do I have to do it like these guys? You seen them on Instagram? The ones that slap their balls, the one that go like ah. You've seen that? It's crazy. They
No,
do.
I have not seen that, but I
No.
have
By the way,
seen-
I'm not joking. There's this guru. Like it sounds like I'm just like it's a silly joke I'm making, but I'm
no,
not
I
kidding.
believe you.
Yeah.
I'll look it up. I'll look it up before I
It's
come
it's
back
it's
to you.
insane. This
I
guy
like
says that it amps up testosterone, so basically teaches people to just look at the sun and go like this, and then they literally slap. And he's like, dude, okay. But no, I'm. Uh,
No,
um,
what I do is I just sort of look up and let this, like almost like when you open up an oven and the warm air grazes your face. I just sort of like look up and let the warmth fall into my eyes. And when I did it, which I later found some cultures say not to do this. I felt called to do it. I did it. I'm glad I didn't know because I would have respected it.
wait. You mean like you opening your eyes too?
Yeah, I open up my eyes and I sort of like a soft focus towards the sun, but I'm not looking at it.
No. Okay.
And I just sort of like let the rays like fall, like the warmth, sort of the warmth and kind of the light, but I'm not looking at it, like fall into my eyes, and it kind of gets me in that higher vibration where you can almost feel your molecules a little higher vibration when you're spending time with the molecule, and it sort of brings me into a higher state, and I usually end up like it ends up course directing my life in some way on the days that I do it.
Interesting.
But what I wanted to share with you was that I did it on the eclipse. You remember when the eclipse was? I did it on the eclipse. I was just sitting at a vegan restaurant, and the sun was right above me, and I just felt called to like lift my head, and I opened my eyes, and like all these rays came in, and it should have hurt because that was a very intense day, but I actually sat there longer than I ever had, I actually sat there longer than I ever had, and I kind of couldn't move, and I just felt this like immense, intense amount of like love and like almost like connected to like I've experienced where you feel like you're everything and everyone and all of that love, but I felt like the sort of like access point to the earth, sort of like the thing that holds a globe, the pole that holds a globe. Anyhow, that night, so when I'm praying with the molecule, I see all these different realms, but they're all sort of like clear shapes and almost like people, right? Like shapes that become people. But there are definitely like colors and geometric. But that night when I dreamt after the eclipse, I saw realms, but they were all physical, and I could see them doing things and trying to communicate with me, but they were like muted. And I was in this like intergalactic salon with all these different like creatures from all different kinds of dimensions.
Like
And it
Star
didn't feel
Wars?
like huh?
Like Star Wars?
Yeah. Well, I'm not a Star Wars fan. So
I'm not either. I just know that they have like this kind of salon, right?
Yeah, it would be kind of like, yeah, exactly like those bars that they have. And I was walking through it kind of like goofy but strutting, like I own the bar or whatever. And there was like just different people like with those little things that they put over your head, the dryers, and they were all looking at me like I didn't own the bar. They'd never seen me before. And then I walked up to this person that was like purple and was like, hey, like I knew them, and they were like, you're not supposed to be here. And I was like, what time am I supposed to be here? And they're like, no, you're not supposed to be here ever. You need to go home. This is not your time or place. This is not, are you? And then they were like, are you an avatar? Like, what are you? And then I looked in the mirror and my face was like all mangled. And I thought, oh, they don't know I'm pretty here. This will be interesting.
You guys don't know who I am.
And then,
I'm a pretty girl.
but I mean, like, and then I thought, like, what stayed with me is that, like, everyone on the planet should feel that way. Like everyone should feel like you don't see it. Like, it was just like this understanding of the, like, primordial beauty at the core of everyone's soul. Anyways, so then I said that out loud, like, oh, they don't know I'm beautiful here. This will be interesting. And then there was this, like, light that shot out of my heart. And I saw, like, every single person, but thousands of different versions of them over and over and over again for like 6 or 7 hours. And I even woke up to try to get myself out of it because it was like when Neo connects to this, like that computer and downloads everything. I woke up, and while I was awake, it was still happening.
Whoa.
And it just went on for like 6 or 7 hours. And it was like, some things were terrifying. And I just felt it was just beautiful no matter how terrifying things got. And I just kept saying, thank you for all this information. And I just wondered if you or anyone in here has any, I don't know, connection to this whatsoever, or I don't know.
I know that probably there's quite a few people here that had like astral projection experiences, which sounds like this would be along the lines of and if anybody has, please feel free to talk about it. I personally never had that experience. I have a very kind of like straightforward experience when it comes to these things, and I don't know what to attribute this to. Now I've experienced a lot of things of the flavor of like the oneness and the connection, but it always seems to me like, how should I say this? It always seems to me like it's not what people think it is. Does that make sense? Like whenever yeah, it's whenever I'm hearing people, so it might be a product of me not fully getting to the bottom of what people are trying to say. But it sounds to me like from when people, they have a certain character that they're outlining, and when I'm tuning into that character, it doesn't match what I'm seeing. And what I deduct from that is that the true thing, and I know it's maybe a little bit chewed up and a little bit of a cop out, but I really believe that the true thing is truly unfathomable, because in order to really fathom it, you have to be it fully. And I know that some people would insist, no, you are it fully. And I know I've met these people, I've interacted with them. I know even that they have certain powers. Like I'm aware of all of these things, including what this person was asking about the stars. But I can't shake off the feeling that there's something else here, and I'm trying to stay on that lane because it led me so far to everything that where I am now with this. But I am always listening very openly, and I'm receiving it as a bit of information that I think has relevance. When it comes to like the specifics of like interacting with other beings in other planes, I know for a fact that's happening. So like that's not even under, like that for me is like just like a fact about reality, because at this point I've had like, I'm just, when I go, I just see them all the time. I've never had like this specificity of like going into a saloon, because everything that I see is like extremely alien, and I guess I just get used to that environment. A lot of them are like insect-like. I don't know if they mask some of it sometimes because maybe it's a little bit too jarring. But everything you're saying literally from the beginning since you came on makes perfect sense to me, including all the stuff that you just said. Let's see if people shared anything about what you said. The wisest will say the powers are the distraction along the path. Oh, wait, so let me read it properly. The wisest will say the powers are a distraction along the path, a test or a gate that you will not pass if you are too enamored with the powers, which is, thank you for that, Azamun, which is essentially the Buddhist perspective. According to the Buddhist perspective, the point and the practice really is to keep moving and not allowing any of these things to enamor you or like go like, wow, this is shiny, because ultimately they're all essentially just traps. Like all of any attachment of any kind, and the second would say, wow, that's a trap, right? And I'm just kind of recapitulating what I know about the Buddhist tradition, but I'm not 100. I'm still, my jury is still out to respond to you, Azamun. If the Buddha truly discovered the ultimate picture, or because of the time that it was embedded in, he couldn't possibly have. So maybe there's new information that we can bring to the table that might also be relevant, but I don't know. That's not, I truly, my jury is out on this. Eyes and ears take electrical. Okay, no. So I see actually nobody's commenting about astral projection or anything like this. Let me ask you something, Tony. So you have experienced these things. Also, you said close to 1,000 times, right? So that's a pretty robust experience. I don't meet a lot of people like you. And is it particularly with one molecule, or it's basically with all of them? And if so, and whatever it is, do you feel that at any point your experience is stabilized to like a base thing, and then you can see that there are all of these departures from this base thing, or every single time, no matter how often you do it, it's always just like a completely new thing that, and you don't know what to expect?
Sorry, I couldn't figure out how to turn off my mute.
Hey, Eva.
I don't know what to expect. It's been so when I do the pizza stuff and the 70s version of that, that gives me a lot of anxiety, and I don't understand that technology very well.
What, you're talking about the spirit molecule?
No, when I do the because you asked me if I just get it from that, and that's the one that I've done hundreds of times.
Okay.
That one is the technology for that. For some reason, settles with my body very, very well. Like I was able to do things on it the first time that other people, it took them like 10 years to figure out. But like the pizza toppings and the liquid one, that technology gives me a lot of anxiety, and I don't quite understand it, so I don't really get there. But with the molecule, I have experienced a lot of the same thing. There's these different layers of it. Like the first layer, it's like almost like a fun house. It can be a little scary once in a while. There's like a lot of like faces that become different faces that become like halls, and then there's like a realm of like halls, and that is like it's almost like points going up to a palace, like the grounds, the garden, the elevator, and then like inside the faces turn into like this hallway, and it's not like I go through these in one thing. It's like how my brain has mapped all the pieces and the times that I've done it. And then there was a time that I was inside where you have those sort of like praying mantis looking god ones that are like still like geometric and see-through, but they start to like have arms and stuff. And at one point they were sitting at a table, maybe playing their version of like Dungeons and Dragons or chess or something, it felt like. And if I look at them, they kind of disintegrate into something else. So I was learning how to like look at them through like soft focus, like I was talking about with the sun, and they kind of couldn't see me, so I would start to be able to make out like what's happening in their reality instead of just the shape of their existence. And they were definitely it felt like playing a strategic, like they were looking down into the table as if planning something, right? Like you would with chess, but maybe a game more collaborative, right? The four of them were like strategizing. And when I was looking through the corner of my eye, and then when my retina or whatever would have actually like reached them, the guy like kind of like slowly looked up. He was very big and Thor-like, but again, more like reds and greens. And he sort of like looked at me like, how in the F are you here? And I kind of looked at him for like a split second, like, can I stay? Like, you know? And then it looked like he was going to look at the other three guys like, do we let her? Like, what's happening or something? And then poof, it was gone. And I tried like probably like for the next year or something to try to find that table again. And I couldn't. When I did it, you can do it as a vape, you can do it as a rock. When I did it as a rock, I would see sort of like bird's eye view of different worlds that were all a little bit more physical, but still geometric. And when I do it with other people, if I had a boyfriend once and I was like laying on his chest while he did it because he was really scared to do it. So I was like doing it to comfort him, and I could see his world, which was, my world is like dark, not in a bad way, just like the void, which is very, very like a beautiful feeling. The void is filled with love. But when I went to his world, it was incredibly bright, but not as much love, which I thought was very interesting.
Oh, so it's almost like clinical?
Yeah, except for you can see, it's really pretty, but yeah, maybe clinical is a good point. Like I saw grass and I saw like it was a really beautiful, bright world. And he's a narcissist, like clinically. So it's really it made me wonder because
So it was neat.
my parents were narcissists and I have a lot of compassion for what I think is happening in their brain. I think they're buried inside of something that's too hard for them to get to the kindness that's so easy for us. And I thought, wow, if his world is like that bright and green, and then that's still what's coming out of his body, that must be so confusing, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I usually look at these things at this point that all of these people, especially when they appear in our lives, they're there to help us learn something or understand
Yes.
something about us.
But I mean, how confusing it must be. Like, I would think somebody who's causing pain to other people, their world would be like, you know, like that funhouse world that I told you in the beginning.
Well, I think it's slightly confusing being malicious with hurting people because of lack of care, and I think those are two different modalities. So like that's not that, like sometimes people just don't. If you're saying like a narcissist, like it's mostly about them, and anything that doesn't fit into that category, it just doesn't matter. It's not like they go out of their way necessarily to try and hurt somebody. Like there's a difference between that and like having like like a psychopath who like seeks to hurt so they can get satisfaction from the hurt. That's a little different there. So it would still make sense to me.
Yeah. Anyway, so does that answer the question that you were?
Yeah. I just wanted to know if like some portion of the space stabilized. Because for me, I don't know. I like eventually, it kind of becomes like it doesn't really matter. Like the content never matters to me so much anymore. What is interesting is that the content that I see that is concrete, the one that I'm talking about, the console and the code and stuff, that's different. It's not the same as like the other things that kind of happen. I one time had an experience a long time ago. I remember I saw regular people flying into the space. So what happened to me is I flew in, I landed, and I could feel gravity. That was the first time ever that I could feel gravity in that space. And I was like I was sitting on the floor, and I was like, what? And then I saw other people flying into the space, like regular people. And then I saw these snake-like things coming out of the ground, but not like scary snakes. They're more like, I guess, hoses or whatever, right? But they're like colorful. They're kind of like the snakes from Beetlejuice, but like colorful and not menacing. They have like a VR goggles on the end of it, and they just come out of the ground, and somebody flies in and it meets them. So like they fly, and then the goggles meet their face. It goes like whoop, and then the person is like, whoa. So I realized, because we don't know what's going on, but we're like flying to their space. So they had to find a solution because we just kind of interrupt whatever. So they just have these like entertainment goggles that just come to our faces, and we just go like, whoa, like a TV basically, right? And I was looking at that, I was like, and then one of them saw me, like one of the beings that were there from there, he was kind of doing something, and he kind of looked at me, and he saw me without the goggles, and I go, and he understood everything, right? So like, so that I'm amazed and all, but he saw that I'm not like too rambunctious, I guess. So he's like, he just turned back and kept on working. And then I kind of looked at him in a way of like, I want to ask something. And then he looked back at me, and then I said, wait, what if I tell people? And he basically looked at me and went, and I will never forget this because this is the only time in my life where I heard what truth sounds like. In the sense, it's the flattest note you can possibly hit. So it's like a pond that is perfectly flat. So every time we speak, we have an intonation, right? We communicate about our inner state and about what our mood is and all of that. It's very nuanced.
Yes.
He basically just said, "Go ahead," but I can't say it like he said it because the flatness of it communicated. Sure, like do whatever you like. There's no secrets. It's just what it is. It doesn't matter. Like you can say whatever you want. It is what it is. Like and that's it. And of course, do whatever you want. And that was, I will never forget this moment. And that's actually the moment where I remember I came back, and it was the first hint for me That was way before even my super uber realistic experiences were happening. That was I guess the first flavor of that. And after that, I came back. I remember I was with my friends, and I was like, Mike, this space is real. And he's like, I don't remember what he responded, but I was like, I saw that he's not fully like grasping what I'm saying, and I'm like, no, you don't understand. This is like real. And he goes like, okay. I'm like, no, you don't get it. He's like, no, I get it. I'm like, no, you don't, because your response is not tracking what I'm saying to you right now. And I remember like just like being so like blown away by this. I was like, okay, I don't know how, but I've never known something in my entire life with more certainty than this. Like I know that this is real. And then it kind of started this like whole journey that eventually like maybe 8 or 9 years after that landed me in the, you know, kind of like figuring out the laser and all that stuff.
Do you think that you figured that figuring out the laser came from, like, let me see how I ask this. Do you think it came from the expansion of your brain from visiting there, or do you think that they actually went out of their way to tell you?
I don't think there's nothing special about me or brain development or anything like that. I think it's just a matter of, like I say, oh, well, you don't know, but we're working on a documentary, and one of the things that there's a kind of line in our trailer that people really like, that I said, I realized that nature doesn't keep secrets. It's just a matter of, do we understand? That's it. It's so.
Right, yeah. Yes. That's not what I mean. I mean, do you think that, okay, so for me,
Yeah.
I feel that like we are, like one time that I came back, because I would always set an intention before I went to remember as much as I can and the most important things. And one time when I came back, the first thing out of my mouth was like, we are fancy USBs.
Mm-hmm.
And then over time, I started to realize that we fill our USB with like pain, trauma, resentment, and like what we have to do to attract other people, or something in that world, right?
So maybe the discovery took the shape that it took because of how my mind works. I never lost a lot of people kind of gain a lot of this very spiritually charged, let's call it, rhetoric after they interact with these spaces for quite a while. I am personally always on so I meditate all the time. You know, I've done meditation retreats. Like I understand the whole thing about the path. Like I get it, but the critical mind never leaves me. Like it's just I'm very much in the thought that if it's real, then it will definitely still answer to some, you know, physical components, and will tie to what we understand about physics. That's my mindset. So maybe the way that it came to me, so there was like hints that appeared for me over time that I then started connecting with it. And eventually I kind of landed on this thing that is replicable, which is, as far as I know, unheard of till like the first thing that is actually truly replicable 100% of the time. And that, I think, flavor of this kind of like scientific way of doing it maybe is a product of how my brain works. And I'm absolutely certain that the truth is spoken to all of us all the time in the way that we tend to understand. I would agree with you with 100%. So like this kind of way of coming at it will not come to a person who's more, you know, believe that the guides are talking to him or her. But that is not less true. It's just that the way that it comes to them in a way is that they can digest and understand and do something with. And I think all of these modalities are required for us to ultimately kind of unlock these gates. So I always say we need to merge the left and right hemisphere of humanity. So all the people that are more cerebral, all the people that are more spiritual, and then just combine these forces versus kind of keep thinking that it's a competition in some way. And this tendency comes from both ways. And this is why I keep trying to keep this like central channel. Does that answer your question or no?
Yeah, I think it does. Thank you very much.
Of course. And yeah, well, definitely please email me or DM me, and I will definitely invite you for our weekly, not weekly, but the lives that we're going to be doing, like in you know, in real life. So
thank you so much. I appreciate you and your time and your audience.
Thank you so much for coming. You said you're in LA too, right?
I am, yeah.
Amazing. Well, I'm glad that you came and shared your experiences. So, guys, I think I will adjourn for today because I have a little puppy that probably is gonna start peeing on the floor again. So I gotta take him for a little walk. Love everybody. Thank you so much for being here, and much peace and love to everyone. And we'll see you tomorrow. Oh, and by the way, to all the people that asked all the questions, I saw your things on the chat. For example, something about the glass, and I tried to scroll back up, and I couldn't see it really. But I'm here every day, so please come by again and ask the question, and we'll talk about it. Much love, everybody. Have a good night.